Before we get started, thank you all so much for clicking on this video. My D16 essay blew up and still continues to be my best performing video on the channel. Views are not everything, but getting 370,000 plus views on a video is something I never dreamed of. At the time of the recording of this video, that D16 essay is still being claimed by Paramount to have no original content in it. This battle with them is not about revenue, but about fair use. If you don't see the D16 video anymore, that means that they won the many disputes, deleted the video, and struck my channel. I have done my best to keep the integrity of my content concrete in this video, but I obviously have had to change some of my editing techniques and style to avoid Paramount once again coming after me. Thank you again for all the support. Optimus Prime has been a staple, not only in the Transformers franchise, but in the lives of children and adults starting in 1984 till today. He is arguably one of the most recognizable heroes in today's society, and just like mainstays such as Superman, Spider-Man, or Batman, even when going through generations of redesigns, you can instantly pick him out of a crowd. Optimus's defining character traits are that of leadership and wisdom. He is a towering machine, dwarfing most of our regular-sized heroes. And yet, through Peter Cullen's mastery portrayal of him, you are put at ease by the sound of his voice. As many fans will know, Peter Cullen's direction for the voice of the Autobot Commander was based on his now passed brother, Captain Larry Cullen. Most notably, Cullen has quoted his brother when speaking about the inception of Optimus Prime, saying,
"Captain Larry Cullen, K Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division, United States Marine Corps, whose inspiration for Optimus Prime came from his words and in his voice. Peter, if you're going to be a hero, be a real hero. Be strong enough to be gentle. Semper Fi, Larry. All my heart, I thank you."
While Peter Cullen is both the original and definitive voice of Optimus Prime, we have had others step into this role. Gary Chalk and David Kaye are notable voice actors who brought the character to life in the early and mid-2010s, while more recent voice actors such as Alan Tudyk and Jake Fushi have brought different approaches to the table. Having different actors portray popularized heroes is important. It allows for new shades of the characters to be drawn, and again, while Peter Cullen will always be Optimus Prime himself, the character is bigger than just one man.
Can we help?
We are the only ones who can stop the Decepticons.
But my son Spike and I know more about Earth than you do.
Maybe you can help us.
I've tried my absolute hardest over the years to be open-minded to new takes on Optimus. Hearing that a new voice actor will be taking up the role is always exciting and concerning at the same time. But I have to admit that when it was announced that none other than Chris Hemsworth was taking over the role of Optimus Prime for Transformers 1, I was not happy.
This is his journey to becoming the all-powerful, all-knowing Optimus Prime.
Transformers 1 brought us a different side to the Optimus Prime that's not entirely unique. As I said in my D16 video essay, the Orion Pax we find in this film is heavily based off of the aligned continuity's most memorable aspects. Orion is a nobody, but rather than being a data clerk we usually see him as, Orion has been put on the same social level as his brother, D16, and for good reason. In many past iterations, Orion has come from an archivist background, while Megatron has risen from the pits of Kaon. Their friendship is grown out of mutual respect for each other, as they both fight, in their own ways, to better their homeworld of Cybertron. But placing Orion in a higher social class than Megatron is somewhat problematic. In a way, taking this direction gives off the impression that anyone can be great and justified if they are from the correct background. Megatron's uprising against an unjust social system leads him down the path of villainy, while Orion's peaceful protests lead him to great leadership. I want to be very clear, I do not think Transformers is saying if you are from a lower social class, you have no hopes of being great. However, placing Orion and Megatron on the exact same level within the social structure of Cybertron makes their inevitable falling out that much more bittersweet. They both come from nothing and end up on completely sides of a war destined to ravage their home. Orion is portrayed as a brash minor bot who is constantly getting into trouble with Cybertronian authority. He's well known by the higher class Transformers, if only because he is constantly causing a ruckus all around the city of Iacon.
Orion.
In what I felt was maybe not a callback, but a well-written through line to other continuities, Orion yearns to know more about the origins of his world and the legendary Matrix of Leadership. While he may be somewhat selfish in his direct actions, his hopes for the Matrix are for the betterment of his people, not personal power. That doesn't mean that Orion's selfishness, though, doesn't have a cost for the people around him. His brother D16 is often caught up in his antics and pays the price. Elita 1 also experiences the effects of being around Orion, as her hopes of a promotion are dashed when she is fired after Orion saves the day from a collapsing mine.
Elita 1, you're fired.
What? Why?
It's interesting to note that it's not Orion's fault the cave collapses, but rather his kind-hearted attitude to save Jazz's life that then causes more trouble for Elita. Orion does the morally right thing, but as per the system he lives in, it's not the most favored outcome. But we already did a video on the system in the D16 video, so I'm gonna try my best just to focus on Orion here. Throughout the rest of the movie, we see Orion's hopeful nature continue to persist even in the midst of dire situations and dangerous encounters. He even keeps up a pleasant attitude when around the ever-chatty B-127. There's nothing too disruptive that can stop Orion from achieving his goal of finding the Matrix. We see his heroism when saving B-127 from the Quintesson recon ship, as well as the beginnings of his leadership skills when dealing with Elita directly following the train crash. But we really get to see him shine when faced with the hard reality that the Matrix of Leadership cannot just be found, but rather it must be granted to one deemed worthy. Now we, the audience, whether we know Transformers well or not, can easily figure out that Orion will end up being worthy of this great gift. I personally don't need a story to surprise me around every corner, but rather I just need it to be done well. And Orion's character arc here is done extremely well, primarily because of the rift that forms between himself and D16. Orion's goal of retrieving the Matrix has failed, and so he pivots to another noble endeavor, bringing Sentinel Prime to justice, declaring him a traitor to all of Cybertron so that a new age of justice can begin. But he really doesn't have that much of a plan after that. And that's noticed when D16 reveals that he doesn't want the same type of justice as his brother.
No, I want to kill him!
Orion is starting to see the cracks forming in his friendship with D. He's beginning to mature and see the effects of an unjust ruler. His hopeful attitude for a better future is somewhat clouded by his brashness. He thinks the group will be able to simply show the world the truth, and then all will be corrected. And while this does eventually end up happening, there are greater consequences on the horizon. D16's reaction to the plan shows us his anger towards Orion. He is constantly setting things into motion that have consequences for others. Orion is naive, reckless, and most dangerously unaware of how the real world works. D's reaction gives us more context and layers to their relationship as we see the toll recent events has taken on the two. Orion is always getting the two into trouble, but this situation is something entirely new. The mood changes when the bots are given T-Cogs and unlock their full potential. In the midst of danger, we get to see Orion display more qualities of heroism when he turns back to save Alpha Trion. While he may be reckless, he knows the difference between moral rights and wrongs, something that is briefly shown off when D kills a Death Tracker after their escape. I have to bring this up real quick. Yes, Optimus for sure kills a lot of these guys later in the movie, so this isn't a question of self-defense or anything, but the movie makes it a point to have D be the first to kill, and to specifically have Orion react the way he does. The cracks in their friendship are starting to show. They are not as similar to each other as Orion once thought. With new power granted to them, D takes the lead and Orion is hesitant. After witnessing his friend's new attitude, he's scared that D won't do the right thing. This is the moment when the two truly begin to waver in their camaraderie. Orion is constantly checking on D, as a friend would do, but it comes off as nagging. Orion is worried about his friend, but more importantly, he's worried that his plan won't be carried out correctly. Orion is not faultless. In many ways, he's selfish. He has always wanted to be something more than meets the eye, something greater than a miner. D has lived in relative content with his own life, but Orion keeps dragging him into new escapades. And now, when D takes charge, Orion feels helpless, like a younger brother who complains when his older sibling takes over command. Orion is realizing the situation they're in is much more dire than he thought. When captured by the High Guard, Orion immediately takes the cooperative route. His naivety tells him that everyone must have good intentions at heart, and that his plan to work together is foolproof. But the world doesn't work this way. Not everyone is willing to work together based on plans alone. Starscream informs us that he doesn't care about justice, only survival. All that matters is one bot's strength over the other, survival of the fittest. A language of power. A language Orion doesn't speak fluently, but in his lack of tenacity, D16 does speak this language. In a moment that is primarily centered around D and Starscream, Orion's reaction is vitriol. The eyes of the characters on screen are done so masterfully that we get to see the emotions and thoughts running through Orion's head. He's scared, he's terrified, and he's regretful. He's starting to realize who D really is, and that because of his own pressure and nagging, he's losing his friend. Before he can reconcile the mistake, though, the High Guard is attacked, and D is taken prisoner, leaving Orion alone to contemplate his mistakes that, as always, have lasting consequences on others. The proof of Sentinel's betrayal has been destroyed, and Orion's motivation to do right has evaporated. He's realized how out of control he has been, that he makes plans and takes actions without really considering the whole picture. It's only because of Alita's speech to Orion that he's able to move forward. She calls out his reckless optimism as a strength of his. It's because of this that he has been able to survive so long. In a world built on lies and might makes right mentality, Orion has broken the mold by being brash. Cybertron has needed someone to buck the system for a long time now. Someone to question why things are the way they are. Someone to hold up a mirror to authority and ask, is this right? Is this the truth? But Orion is not the one doing this. D16 is already well on his way of not just holding up the mirror, but tearing down the old ways in its place. Orion still believes that a peaceful resolution can be met. Surely there must be justice in this world. Some would say he's a fool for thinking this, but no. He's just optimistic. He's still growing into the leader he needs to be. After all, he doesn't even say roll out loud enough for the High Guard to hear him.
We roll out.
Later, when speaking to the miners, Optimus admits to his own faults. He has never been a model citizen, always getting others into trouble and causing a headache to those around him. The first steps he takes as a new bot are that of self-reflection. He's starting to mature. He offers everyone the chance to be who they want to be, not who they are now. He offers the chance for them to mature just as he is doing. It's because of this self-aware speech that has the miners follow him into battle. The citizens of Cybertron are not looking for a new leader to take control like Sentinel did. They are looking for someone selfless to follow. Orion has been far from that leader, but they see the change happening. Orion is transforming from a selfish wannabe into a selfless somebody. But when Orion is faced with the consequences of the plan that he set into motion, he's still not able to change the course of history. He pleads with D not to kill Sentinel. He pleads that the new age of Cybertron is not built again off the murder of a Prime. And just like with real friends, sometimes we mean well, but our words betray us. Orion asks D not to be like Sentinel, a statement that is true, but worded this way sends his brother over the edge.
Don't be like Sentinel.
There is no going back now. The rift has fully split the two apart. D16 has made up his mind. Sentinel must die. This is his justice. Orion, now the selfless hero, jumps in the way of D's fusion cannon, not to save Sentinel per se, but to save his brother from a choice he cannot take back. In these final moments between the two, Orion yet again holds on to optimism. He tells his brother, no, this is not who he is. This is not what Cybertron can be built upon. But he's not talking to D16 anymore. He's not talking to the brother he once had. He's talking to Megatron.
I'm done saving you.
Falling into the core of Cybertron, Orion's actions have lasting effects on the world around him. Sentinel is murdered, Megatron is born, and a civil war begins to evolve. As we saw at the start, Orion's actions have consequences outside of his own life. Everyone is now facing a new world because of his plan. But even in the moment of defeat, Orion is given a second chance. His selfless act has proven to be the first steps into becoming more than just a miner. Optimus Prime arises from the ashes of Orion Pax, reborn into the hero he was always meant to be in his spark. Optimus is not perfect. He is far from the leader we know him as today, but he has begun his journey towards greatness. It's purposefully ironic that Megatron will coin the phrase "rise up" when he himself is faced with the arisen body of his deceased brother, now turned into a Prime. Megatron's reluctance of self-proclaimed heroes is clear, but Optimus was granted the Matrix by Primus himself. But Primus means nothing to Megatron. All that matters is strength. All that matters is justice. Optimus represents the system reborn with a focus on equality, but to Megatron, it is still a system of oppression. In a moment of tension, Optimus retains his outlook on life and pleads once again that Megatron stand down. They can still be brothers. They can rebuild the world that Sentinel tainted in the name of the Primes. Restore glory to Cybertron and to the Prime moniker. Optimus's optimism is well admirable, but the world has changed, and so has his brother. After their battle for control, Optimus hands down the justice belonging to Sentinel to Megatron. Both have become twisted versions of themselves, the former via power and jealousy, and the latter due to rage. Megatron and the High Guard are banished from Iacon, forced to fend for themselves amongst the surface world of Cybertron. Optimus has brought in a new reign of Cybertron, but he can't do it alone. He has grown to see that his tenacity alone cannot answer all problems. Recruiting Alita and B-127 to his side, he completes his story arc in showing us, the audience, that even he is not enough alone. Optimus' storyline in Transformers 1 is a lot simpler than Megatron's. He learns to grow from the selfish bot he is into a selfless hero who puts others' needs before himself. As I've said many times, this is a simple message. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it is delivered well. Optimus's growth is to show us that even out-of-control, reckless troublemakers can evolve into leaders, rather than making him a studious figure who comes from a background such as an archivist. The writers have opted to make his character arc more meaningful. Having Orion start out as an archivist is not a bad idea, but it takes away the opportunity for his growth to be more drastic. There's a lot of comments on my Megatron videos stating that Megatron did nothing wrong, and while I don't fully agree with the generalization of that statement, it is easy to see that Megatron is a creation of the powers above him, but he was also a product of Orion Pax. There's a sadness to Optimus's voice when he banishes Megatron, not just because his friend must go, but because he feels the weight of responsibility for creating the problem. Megatron only exists because of Orion's persistence. Is it safe to say that D16 would not have become Megatron, or some type of revolutionary without Optimus's actions? Maybe, maybe not. But Orion's constant troublemaking is what led the two down the path of self-discovery, a path that split the two apart. If Transformers 1 does get the sequel it deserves, then I hope we get to explore the aftermath of this aspect. In other continuities, Optimus and Megatron's origins are closely tied together, but this film gives us a story wherein Optimus is somewhat directly responsible for the creation of Megatron. In the IDW comics, Optimus and Megatron exist separately in their origins, but become lifelong enemies eventually. In the Aligned continuity, which much of this film takes inspiration from, Optimus and Megatron both have the same goals, but Cybertron rejects the Gladiator and accepts the Archivist. Transformers 1 makes sure to be very clear that without Orion Pax, there is no Megatron. And in response to the monster created, Primus allows Orion to fix the problem by awakening Optimus Prime. When we first heard that Transformers 1 would feature the voice of Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, and other well-known celebrities, I, along with most people, were more than worried. Too often now do we see the use of well-known actors, not for their talents, but rather for their names alone. This is not to say that a film actor cannot do voice acting. Of course not. But it's easy to jump to conclusions that an actor is chosen simply due to their bankability alone. Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime did not sound appealing at all, given he's most well known for his depiction as Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A character who recently has been written as a bumbling fool who also has a heart of gold. I personally do not subscribe to the fact that a film actor is always chosen for a voice acting role because of their stardom. Truthfully, in all reality, we do not know all the facts behind the scenes. We do not know if others were considered for the role. We don't know if Chris Hemsworth and his team really gunned for the role or not. There's simply too many unknowns for me to agree that this cast was chosen only because of their previous work. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. Is it most likely given the marketing machine that Hollywood is? Yeah. But again, we just don't know enough. To make the blanket statement that all celebrity castings in animation is bad really gets on my nerves. Is Oscar Isaac a bad fit for Spider-Man 2077 in Across the Spider-Verse? He's a celebrity, is he not? What about the incredible Jeremy Irons in the original Lion King from 1994? Surely you wouldn't call him a celebrity casting. How about the incredible 1998 animated film The Prince of Egypt? Truly a masterpiece of a film in all regards, and yet its cast is full of celebrities. Val Kilmer, Ralph Fiennes, Steve Martin, Sandra Bullock, and so many more. Having a well-known celebrity in your animated film does not automatically make it bad. There is the argument that in place of these celebrities, experienced voice actors should be hired instead. And it is true that screen acting and voice acting are two very different beasts, but we need to be realistic here. An animated film is run, produced, and financially backed by those in the film industry, not the animation, art, or voice acting industry. This is a battle that has been fought for centuries. Artist versus manager. The people who want to make art, and the people who want to make money. All of that said, Chris Hemsworth does an amazing job as Orion Pax and Optimus Prime. Despite how deep his voice can be, he brings a sense of youth to the character throughout the film. At times he does sound a little odd, but I think that's mainly because I'm used to hearing him with an Australian accent. He's obviously not just acting as himself here, he's bringing the character to life by speaking a specific way. Now, how best to describe that way is far beyond me because I'm a simpleton when it comes to dialect and voice direction. But just like for someone who doesn't understand how to read music or how music composition works, your ear and brain can tell when something is generally good or bad. And Hemsworth, as Orion, is good. You really get the sense from his performance that Orion is constantly on the go. He's eager to impress Alita, always thinking on his toes, and constantly getting into trouble with authorities. In an interview with Hemsworth, he mentions that he wouldn't dare copy Peter Cullen's rendition of Optimus Prime, and this was the absolute right call in my opinion. Orion is not the humble leader we know Optimus to be, far from it. Hemsworth even admits to this, that this is a new character take, an Orion who is brash and cheeky. The film does show us the birth of Optimus, but even then, there's still much more growth that must happen to bring us to the Optimus we all know so well. Another aspect of this performance I cannot overlook is the fact that Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry never met in person during the film's production. This is not uncommon these days for animated films to have the main cast record lines separately, especially when geological boundaries are present. Hemsworth and Henry live in completely different areas, and the producers of the film obviously allowed for the two to record their dialogue separately. But even still, you cannot tell this in the film. These two characters do feel like lifelong friends who are in the same room at all times. The writing plays a big part in this, of course, but even great writing can be torn apart by bad performances. And that's not the case here. Hemsworth and Henry, by extension, do such an amazing job bringing these brothers to life. Transformers 1 has gifted us with not only one of the greatest pieces of media for the franchise, but also one of the greatest Optimus Primes of all time. He's a selfish person who thinks only of himself and oftentimes causes the ones around him to suffer. He's no hero. He's a nobody, a troublemaker. And yet, as the movie teaches us with so many of its characters, he is able to rise up from not only the system he lives in, but from what he believes himself to be. Everyone knows who Orion is. Everyone understands that he's trouble, and yet he can grow past his own faults and learn to be better than he once was. The matrix of leadership, and even the title of Prime, are not what make him the great leader we know him to be, but rather his ability to see the flaws in his own life and do his best to make up for them. Like in the real world, we make mistakes, and oftentimes our mistakes have lasting consequences. We do our best to correct those issues and to try and stop others from getting hurt. But nonetheless, as in life, the world continues to spin regardless of our actions or inactions. Optimus does his best with the situation he has created, and he vows at the end of the movie to do all in his power to continue to right the wrongs he set into motion so long ago. And this is the mark of a true hero, someone who is willing to own up to their mistakes and attempt to fix their wrongdoings. I've used the word brash many times in this video because I feel it's a great way to describe this Optimus as he learns and grows into the leader we know him to be. He may not be there just yet, but eventually we will see that he is a true leader, one that is strong enough to be gentle.
With all my heart, we are one.